Acolyte has completely fallen off the charts. When you're talking about a service that's bringing in billions of dollars of revenue every quarter, and they can't make a profit on it but $40 million. Disney still spent $200 million on this dog pile.
Please tell me this is AI. This is Star Wars now? Star Wars is garbage.
One of the things, speaking of streaming data, and this is going to be an issue, and I don't want to talk about the Acolyte here from a standpoint of the show. I don't care. It was a terrible ending. It was stupid. It was just, I'll put it succinctly, more completely ridiculous, flip-floppy character motivations. You can't tell what one character is doing from one scene to the next because things keep going backwards. We still don't know why the one Jedi offed himself. I still don't know what Saul was so upset about because he didn't do anything wrong. He did what the Jedi sent him there to do, but we were supposed to think Jedi bad. The two sisters basically switch roles at the end of the whole thing was dumb. It was just one of the most poorly written pieces of trash I've ever seen. But here's the deal. Disney still spent $200 million on this dog pile. Okay? That's a reality. That $200 million, the large S, is coming off the books in the fiscal quarter that they're about to report. Because that's when the show debuted. The show debuted in early June, right? It debuted within the fiscal quarter they're about to report, so that $180 to $200 million expense for that show, that's hitting the books as a cost to Disney Plus in this quarter. Again, remember what we talked about before in the last fiscal quarter, and it seemed like they were delaying stuff, they were pushing stuff back. Skeleton Crew didn't come out in the beginning of the year. Now it's going to be pushed back to the end of the year and maybe into 2025, right? That was the other Star Wars show. That was supposed to come out before The Acolyte. We told you why they were doing that. Why also were they suddenly debuting things and they were sharing the load between Hulu and FX, like with Shogun. And they were sharing the load with some things on Disney Plus coming on streaming and a linear broadcast. Why? It was because they wouldn't have to take the whole expense for that production on streaming. Basically, they did exactly what we told you they were going to do. They were going to cut their way to profitability. They cut their way there, and they showed a profit of like 40 million, 20, whatever it was. It was less than 100 million, which is not a lot of money. That's like razor thin on something like that. When you're talking about a service that's bringing in billions of dollars of revenue every quarter, and they can't make a profit on it but 40 million. When you all of a sudden throw another $200 million Star Wars show in there that's not bringing in any new viewers, it's not bringing in any new subs insofar as we can tell, God knows it's not really going to sell any merchandise or anything else for Disney. It's going to be another smack, okay? And that's the problem. And the quarter that we just had, the quarter we're in right now, more Disney Plus big productions. Well, the Acolyte's numbers just didn't do all that well.
Well, they're saving money by cutting board seats.
Well, there's that too. We're going to get to in just a second. Yeah. But here we go. Streaming originals. This is from July 5th to July 11th. So this is when episode 7 came out. And you can see here streaming originals television. The Acolyte is just not there. It has fallen out of the top 10. By that point, you had 7 episodes out there. I mean, you know, this is, it's gone. And then the following week, and I was trying to find the one with the chart, Acolyte has completely fallen off the charts, right? It's just, it's not there. People are trying to say it's one of the most popular this and that. It's not. It certainly has some of the highest amounts of social media engagement, but it is not.
That really matters. Listen to how much I think that matters.
And that's just it. It matters nothing because the whole issue is that most of the social media around it, if it's not botted, it's very negative. You know, that's been the issue. It's a very negative reaction to the show, but it doesn't matter. Acolyte wasn't on it. The season finale for the Acolyte was not on the chart.
And what?
It was,
how did the Mandalorian season 2 finale? How'd that do?
I believe, it was one of the biggest things on the Neil. Oh, that was the
It
Nielsen chart. That's
was.
before we had Luminate.
That was so
or
back
Luminate.
back. And remember, folks, I feel like I sound like Chris Berman there for back. Back when the Mandalorian season 2 finale came out, Disney Plus was on the rise, but they had a fraction of the subscribers they have today. Their latest Star Wars live action show that's supposed to send us off in the High Republic and supposed to make us all excited to see Yoda and Darth Plagueis can't even make the charts. If you just run the numbers, what that means is that in spite of the subscriber numbers being higher today, this show's pulling finale versus finale like 10% or less, and I suspect it's less than what we saw for Mandalorian season 2 episode finale. So, you know, when you've got a 90% drop off in audience, you got a real problem. And all we're doing at this point is Disney is subsidizing suck. That's all we're doing. No one is watching Star Wars. We are past the point of beating the dead horse, right? People have moved on. They're just mocking it now. That's all we did with our after parties. We just laughed at how bad it was.
Yeah.
Apathy is gone.
This is the saved chart that I wanted to bring up here for everybody out there, because this is the last time I want to talk about this god-awful show, The Acolyte. It's a disaster for the Walt Disney Company. It's a disaster for Lucasfilm. It's a disaster for Star Wars on a multitude of fronts.
Right. Did you hear Leslie Headland in that recent interview? She said that lightsabers are phallic symbols and part of the patriarchy. Did you hear about that? I'm just adding to the dumpster that you might have.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't paid any attention to that.
Well, you're welcome then.
But back to this. The issue with Star Wars is that this isn't just about the lore breaking, the canon breaking. This isn't about how they screwed up the Jedi, how they screwed up or they attempted to screw up the Jedi. This isn't about them bringing in Darth Plagueis to use that character and ham-fistedly shove this character in there. Basically, now what we're going to get is Darth Plagueis, just as I predicted about 4 or 5 weeks ago when this show was going on. I think right after episode 3, I said they're going to bring in Darth Plagueis. You watch.
No, that was Kif from Futurama.
Oh, it must have been. They're going to bring in Darth Plagueis, and they are going to suggest that the lesbian space witches are going to be the ones to have shown Darth Plagueis how to create life, and ergo Anakin. And that's basically what they've set up here. Just exactly as throw all that out of the window. None of that matters. The issue here for this show, it's another $200 million mess for Disney, where they continue to piss on the grave of Star Wars, and they can't figure out what's wrong with it. It's not even on the charts. By the end of episode 6, everybody was gone. It fell off the charts. I mean, Sausage Party Foodtopia on Prime Video, a follow-up to a Seth Rogen like raunchy comedy.
He's popular these days, I tell you.
Yeah. 228 million minutes watched. That's basically what the last watch time was when The Acolyte showed up on this chart, was around 220 some odd million minutes, episode 6. And episode 7 wasn't on the chart. Episode 8, this is the final week, July 12th to 18th. Episode 8, the finale, right? Everybody tunes back in for the finale if it's a good show. They want to see how this is going to wrap up. Nobody cared. Everybody checked out. Disney hasn't even continued to report on the numbers for this show. It's an absolute disaster. And the next thing coming up is Skeleton Crew, another who gives a flip show for Disney Star Wars that's not going to do anything to excite or invigorate the fans. This is what they're leading into this Mandalorian movie with, or they're going to try Ahsoka Season 2. Good luck with that. You can't
Here's
sell
a prediction on
merch from
Skeleton
the show.
Crew.
Well, hang on a second.
I bet it charts twice.
If that.
Maybe.
If that. Yeah. I mean, you've got the point now where you can't sell merch. You're not bringing anybody new in, and these things are costing a fortune. They need to stop. But then, for some reason, we're talking about Acolyte Season 2, which makes no sense to me. From a financial stand, forget the fact that you have a handful of overgrown teenagers, Raylos, that want to ship all these characters together. And that's basically who this show was made for. The Acolyte
12
was
of them.
made, the Acolyte was made for a bunch of overgrown kids that don't want anything more complex or better written than a very low rent after school special. And I don't even know if this show rose to that level. The writing in this, like we've talked about, was atrocious. Nothing made sense. Characters did things that made no sense. Just in the last, another great example in the last episode again, the gopher rips the hyperdrive apart on the ship by pulling 2 wires out of the wall. Totally disables the ship for reasons we don't know. And then Soul just goes like, oh, shucks, and leaves the ship and leaves the saboteur on board of his ship. I mean, we still don't know why that even happened.
1970 CGI looked better than the Acolyte.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's still so many things that have gone unexplained for this.
If I need you to go in there and look at them and Smilo Ren making love to one another, and then come lurking out like a gecko and pretend you're Darth Plagueis.
That's it. Future
Right away, Captain.
But you have to wonder, given all of this and how poorly this show was written, how poorly the characters were developed, there's no reason to remember a single person from the show because the whole thing was pointless. Is it any surprise that the few people that were watching this stopped? I don't think it is. And it's not just the people. We could tell. Those of us on YouTube could tell. And we could tell because those of us who were continuing to cover the Acolyte after the 3rd and 4th week, every week there was a steady decline of people watching the videos or chiming in on the live streams about it. People didn't care anymore. So it wasn't just, I mean, and again, that's real-time data. I realize it's anecdotal. It's not Disney metrics. But when you see, you know, at Echo Base Network and Star Wars Theory and all that starts rolling off, there was no excitement from anywhere going into the end of the show. But let them go ahead and make a season 2, by all means, because Disney clearly doesn't care about how well the show performs with audiences. All they care about is, I don't know what, this was a strong, female, diverse, representative show, and we have to make
I thought it was the best comedy on Disney Plus, bar none.
Yeah, I mean, it's all you could do is laugh at the end of it, right? Joining us now from my nerdy home and Geeks and Gamers, welcome aboard, Stephanie.
Hi.
What's up, Steph?
Finally, the schedules aligned. I was able to come on.
Right?
I've been
I like turtles.
I want to talk about the Acolyte, and yeah, I haven't been able to jump on these streams.
I know. I was trying to get you on Wednesdays to come in and chit chat about it, and this was before. Like I've noticed, your X feed is just like ridiculous these days. I mean, you're putting out like the most normal tweet, like, "Oh man, the Acolyte, this was terrible." 4 million views on X later, or something like this is like every tweet you're making now. This is so funny.
Yeah.
It's great.
The Acolyte tweets really blew up. I couldn't believe that. I was like, okay, well.
Unlike the Acolyte.
There you go. I know. Unlike the Acolyte, my tweets were getting more views than the show itself. It was interesting watching those tweets when they were going viral because I was like, I think the episode where she cuts her hair with the lightsaber, I wanted to like leave the notifications on. Usually I'll just mute them so I don't really see any replies. But I wanted to keep the notifications on for that one because I wanted to see what the reception was. Like, are people believing this? Do people really think that it's real? And they don't. They're like, please tell me this is AI. This is terrible. Star Wars is trash. The majority of the people commenting and quote tweeting were trashing Star Wars and saying like, wow, this is Star Wars now? Star Wars is garbage. Like, I haven't watched anything since, you know, this movie. And they're like, yeah, I'm glad I stopped watching because this is horrible. And there's just a tiny, small, like handful of people who were defending the decisions in the Acolyte. And it's crazy. And to think that like Disney is catering to that small, tiny minority of people is just insane.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.